Welcome to the Kuimange Roundtable gatherings here. I'm Paul Robert, the Executive Director and President of the Institute, along with my wife, Laura Lee, the Director of Research, Education, and Outreach. Of course, on behalf of our Board of Directors and supporting members and community members, we want to thank you for joining us. We've established this forum as a platform for open discussion on various facets of the practice of virtual postures. We also gives us the opportunity to go deeper into the practice of the posture work and how it benefits and what it provides to us. We hope that we can inspire a continuing dialogue on the practice itself. And so we love tapping into the community and giving us feedback and together sharing our journey. At the beginning of these discussions, we like to introduce a few specific topics and questions to spark conversation, but we always want to allow ample time to encourage your comments, questions, and contributions. And as we continue the work of the Institute and honor the original research of Dr. Goodman and the original posture canon, we also continue that path of exploration. And we've expanded the power and the efficacy of the practice itself. So, community, without a question, is central to the human experience. And so we want to thank you for joining us today. Before we go forward, let me just cover some old business, just the previous discussions we've had, just in case you missed them. They are recorded and they are available. We don't publish them to the general public. They're only for our inner community. And so you just have to request the links. Of course, if you're on the community host and instructor program, we can also send that to everybody automatically. So in July 1st, we had Lhasa Malnuri, ethnomusicologist, researcher, sharing his story, his own journey, the power of music, sound, rhythm, and how these different traditions and spirituality functions has been part of the lives of indigenous cultures. He also wanted to pose some questions to get the community going. And he just wanted to know, how do we take what we're doing and integrate this into our daily lives? It was a great question that we all had a chance to answer. And how do we share these experiences with others in communities at home? How do we represent this work? It's sometimes we get tongue-tied trying to say, what is it that we do when people ask? And so he asked a great way, and everybody has some really insightful ways of understanding that. That was July. Last month, in August, we had several key things happen. Number one is we had Todd and Christine Van Poel just returned from OSU. After OSU is Ohio State University.
And the archives where Felicitas's, many of her papers are held.
So they went through boxes and boxes of documents and photographing things and letters and correspondence, exactly, and all that kind of stuff. And they returned and they shared some stories. And that's really fun to hear. Very interesting. Also, of course, we wanted to honor them because they had just published their book, an anthropological study of spirits, and because we interviewed them a week later. And by the way, if you're on the community host program, I think you need to listen to that interview if you didn't have a chance to attend it in person. It's a required listening, in my opinion, because there's so much details and information about putting what we do as an institute in perspective in the field of anthropology.
And also they gave a report on some of the projects that we're collaborating on, and a recent paper that they posted to academic conferences, and that's a good update.
Yeah, and Todd is a data analysis. What's the exact title?
Statistical analysis in cognitive anthropology.
He's the head of his department. It's not like he's looking for something to do. He's very, very busy, but he takes his time out so generously to do an analysis of the experiences that we're having as an institute. And so we're giving him the documentation. He's done an incredible spreadsheet looking at the different features of the experiences that are coming in. We encourage you to continue sending in your experiences as you finish each posture session, and you'll look forward to hearing some of Todd's stuff. And at some point, we'll involve the community again so they understand how they can support this work that Todd and Christine have taken on.
But Christine, in her work with shamanic cultures, is looking deeply into the work of Felicitas Goodman and how her contributions to the field are opening up, and how we are all continuing on this track.
We're also
So-
doing it now, coming
And
back.
Chris is here, so she can speak
Yeah.
later today more on this.
Okay, and you also going way back to last summer solstice, the Van Pools and Tony Hull and ourselves.
And Tony's here today.
Yeah, and sat around in a circle, and we did a quad analysis of how to
lay out projects
lay
and
out
goals.
projects. And anyway, it was really like, so
Yeah,
we're still
so we
using
can
that.
share that.
Tony would be glad to hear that we're still using that now. Todd and Christine have
We've
gone
been
back.
tracking our,
They just sent us some more data and information, so that's cool.
Oh, good.
Also, we had a great discussion about embodied spirituality practices for children. Theodora stepped up and she says, listen, I have just shared postures with children. And she had a slideshow that we shared with everybody. And it was so charming to see kids holding the bear posture and listening to the drumming. And so if you didn't see that, that also is in last month's video. So you'll want to check that out, and how how this practice can be adapted to make it available for the youth as we go along. I did want to honor Carolyn has been volunteering, helping with transcripts, and also she's been the one who's taking care of the travel arrangements for people coming from all over to the Sedona event, the Equinox Intensive. So that's cool. Mary Wolf volunteered to head up a conversation on fundraising, and so we'll have to talk to her more and see how that's coming, and talk to Mary about that, because she had some great creative ideas about that. And
we'll be following up both with what can we do to support children in ritual in this work, and the fundraising idea and more. So we have lots of follow-up in the months ahead.
And if that's not enough, we're also doing a complete master handbook of the postures.
Oh yeah.
With Barbie Marovich. How do you pronounce her last name?
Marioff.
Oh, Marioff. Okay. And Barbie is a graphic designer and does this professionally. And so she's been helping us get our templates together and start one by one going through every single posture. And
anybody who wants to assist on that project, you are so welcome to.
New photography of the postures is being held, and then artistic stuff. And anyway, that's a long story.
Line drawing, renderings, like all sorts of stuff is happening.
How about today?
Let's get to today.
Okay.
Thank you for the update on just recent couple of hosts.
Well, I just want people to feel like this.
Yeah.
This stuff's all available to you. So just let me know you want to get the links to those 2-hour discussions. We want to do a discussion today on human flourishing. And also, we added the topic of global collective consciousness, and I'll explain what I mean by that later. But we'll go around afterwards, like we always do, with plenty of time for.
Well, this is another roundtable discussion.
Right.
And we have some new aspects on the whole story of human flourishing. And this was brought to us by Brian Tucker, who is on a trip, can't be with us today, but he very much asks that we look at a survey, and we will look at that survey today. This is a survey that is called the UN Inner Development Goals. And what's fascinating to us is that there's so much now happening on human flourishing, and looking at what are these attributes that we really need to embody for the road ahead, the challenges ahead. It's the general question. And it's interesting how many major institutions now are looking at human flourishing. There's the Harvard Human Flourishing Program, and there's this UN Inner Development Goals Program, many, many more. And this is interesting. We've been pondering this, that there's two aspects to this that are really relate to our work here. And one is that this long, long tradition that our ancestors have had for the rituals, the practices, paying attention to how do we maintain right relations with ourselves, with our community, with the universe at large. That's really one of the basis for rituals of this work as a part. And then there's this question, all these groups popping up with global consciousness, with how do we really instill these wonderful attributes and virtues in ourselves? Really, how do we make a better society? And it seems to us that as we are in dialogue with Gaia, with the universe, with the spirits, with the all, whatever this is, we note, and we have for the 50 years that this institute's been alive. We've joined it, 25 years ago, that spontaneously people are reporting, I feel better. I feel compassion. I feel so generous. I feel instilled with so much creativity, emotional resilience, inner strength. I feel that so much joy and bliss is spilling out to me. I can't help but do something to help pass this on. That certainly is what drives us. And we hear this over and over and over again. And so we're thinking, wow, if there is a survey, and this is Brian's point, if there is a survey that is about, well, what are you doing to promote this flourishing? That's just the general catch-all term, flourishing. What are your practices? They're actually now among these many programs with these major institutions going to the grassroots, going to the level of, hey, any and everybody, what are you doing to promote flourishing? Which I so appreciate. I know that there's a lot of study, academic study, neurological study, but here, why not go to the very people who we all have this burden? Let's help make a better world. Let's do our part. It's not just a burden, it's an inspiration, right? Go to us and say, what are you doing? So Brian's point was, could we all just partake in this survey? There's a deadline coming up, that's mid-month. And though we're coming to this rather late, we're like, oh, let's jump on board and let's partake of this. We've filled out the survey. We're going to ask you and give you the links to the survey. But we also thought, let's use the community host right now to, as a roundtable discussion, go through these attributes. It's interesting that what we find, I mean, ours are all about feelings of oneness, feeling of oneness with the universe, feelings of here, meeting with the ancestors, meeting with all of life. All of life is sacred. There's a different set that we have from what I see in the inner development goals, but there's so much crossover. And there are attributes that this survey talks about that are ones that, well, we could dialogue on this too. It's not ones that we generally talk about, but maybe we just haven't considered these. So I thought it would be very interesting today to go through these 23 goals, 23 attributes, and just have a roundtable discussion. Is this something that you see in your life? Is this something that you see this work assisting with? And the general question is, and do you want to start my little slideshow? Because I went through their survey, their questions, and I put each one up on a slide, and I thought we could talk about them one-on-one. But my general question is, thank you, that's my header. My general question is, might these aspects of human flourishing that we're not even trying for, they just show up, are we regularly experiencing these in our ritual body posture sessions as one of nature's ways of equipping us with the skills and the inspiration and the vision to build a better world? Somehow the world better didn't get on my slide, but to build a better world that we all want to agree on. It seems to me that we're just being tutored and schooled and built, you know, with skill sets and inspiration and just the inner strength to go forth and help create a better world. How can we not? And so that is our overall question today. And I thought, well, let's just go through what this group, I think they're out of Sweden, and they're looking at what are the what are you doing to me?
Oh, I see. You can push, you can change slides yourself.
Oh, I see. You're equipping me.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And I thought this was such an interesting aspect. I mean, again, the premise for us is we're all in dialogue with the all, right? It is our source. It is our collective consciousness. It is what we're all doing here. And their starting point for this initiative, and I'm going to identify them. I'll give you a link and we'll credit all of this at the end of our slideshow. But their starting point for this initiative, they say, was a belief that there's a blind spot in our efforts to create a global, sustainable society. And they're pointing out that we've accumulated much knowledge about environmental problems and climate change and poverty and various social ills. We know a lot about the conditions and the causes. We know what ought and what could be done. We have a vision of what needs to happen, but it's been disappointing, all this progress. And they're pointing out, and this is so key to what our work is and many other pathways to this, but they're pointing out that what's missing is a keen insight into the abilities, the qualities, and the skills that we need to foster among the individuals and the groups and the organizations that play crucial roles in working to fulfill these visions. We're missing those actual attributes. And we come at this from individuals, do we not? We're an organization that is just showing you, hey, you've got something inside you, an inner doorway to really open this bandwidth and download this global, universal life force that feeds us all. Let's just open the bandwidth. But this is really between you and the all. And we're just doing this as a group. And they're saying, let's talk about how to build the skillfulness to make the visions happen. I think we have a font right here in this practice. We have a font naturally within us. This practice is just about opening up that doorway. So I thought today we could look at and hear all of you speak to these inner development goals and this survey. And the first one they have is inner compass. This is one of their identified 23 skills or attributes. They define inner compass as having a deeply felt sense of responsibility and commitment to values and purposes relating to the good of the whole. How do I turn it off so I can dialogue on this? Because I'd like to take each one and then just say, here's the one we want to talk about. What do you think? Inner compass. I know for myself and for Paul, the inner compass is really just tuning in to that elixir, that sense of wholeness, that sense of oneness, right? I think that we just become heat-seeking missiles for that. Our inner GPS goes ding, 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 ding. Let's go to that. It's interesting to me that nature designs us to seek out what we're supposed to be doing on the planet, right? We seek out joy and connection and what feeds our soul. We're just built with receptor sites for that. So I think we naturally are gifted with the means to identify and seek more of that. I think inner compass for me. And I think that when we are talking with the universe in this way, and let me speak in metaphorical language is the best language we have for this, that inner compass seems to be provided for us in terms of the whole arc of human history, the whole arc of what the ancestors gift us, the whole arc of being beckoned to a call. Next Sunday, we want to talk about the hero's journey and the call to adventure, right? I want to hear from everybody in the open community that we have. What was your call to adventure? But I think that compass just shows up in our life, and it showed up for us early on, thankfully. We heard Felicitas Goodman talk and we knew, oh, point to this North Star. We need to go closer to this font. So I want to hear from each of you. And I don't know that we can formally go through a talking stick, but why don't you just turn on your mics and just talk? Because we have a lot to cover.
So on
we have
each point, you want to stop
attributes.
and talk after each point?
Well, let's try it out and see if we can manage that.
Yes.
But what is your inner compass, and has any part of this work helped focus, helped clarify that inner compass, help give you more ammunition to find your path? Okay. We've certainly found our path here. What about you? Who wants to start?
Tony has his hand up.
Yeah, go ahead, Tony. Hi and welcome.
Well, hi. Thank you. This is a wonderful, wonderful topic. And let me just be very brief. Inner compass, somehow I've observed how things happen. And they happen in a way that they come together and conflate to make other things possible that make other things possible. And this has very little to do with my intention. There's a song called Fumbling Towards Ecstasy. Well, I think whatever I've accomplished, I have fumbled through it in unexpected ways, but maybe at times I've been able to open up passageways, and certainly the trance experience is one way to open up a passageway. And this is very much part of the pattern which I've partaken in most of my life, virtually all my life. So maybe this is part of the discussion we want to have, but the world doesn't happen optimally. If we sit down and make a concrete plan and follow it without exception, we have to watch. We have to see how things have conflated, how an opportunity has come here or there that may seem really weird, like when I quit my job to hitchhike across the Sahara. That's an example.
Yeah.
Yeah, but very different things came to me, which would have been impossible otherwise. And so there's a certain magic to it. Even what I'm doing now, the work I did at JPL, the work I did on web, the work I'm doing now for my client in Germany, they all are conflating. And I'm in the ideal position to advise NASA on the technology needed for the next great observatory. So I'm participating, I'm relevant, even though if I had followed a concrete plan, I would be irrelevant. But I've kind of bumped around in these things.
Nature had other ideas for you in your life, didn't it?
So this is all part of it. And discovering the Institute by accident, driving my friend up there, and here I meet Laura and Paul, and sort of
we wouldn't let him go.
Yeah. So it was Crystal didn't know what she was creating, so that was very neat. Well, thank you. I won't say more. I'm sure other people have better things to say, but I have to simply say there's an element of not being concrete, but letting magic happen, letting our purposes happen. And I think that's part of what relates in some way to the trance experience.
Yeah, thank you. I think that inner compass is we're gifted with it so that we can find our way through the darkness, through the cold, through the confusion. If we can follow that, as Tony, as you're saying, the inner one, not the outer one. I've had so many battles between my social self, what my parents wanted from me and all of that, but what my soul was going, no, I got to go over here. I couldn't do anything but, right? I'm sure that's a story for so many of us.
Laura's father kept saying, you should be in sales. He didn't quite get that your talent could go beyond that, but it is sales. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah. That's another story.
That is another story.
Thank you.
Tony, thank you.
We have Kelly.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then Julie also has her mic on. So, okay, go to Kelly next.
Hi.
Hello, Kelly.
So I just want to go off of what Tony was just saying about how sometimes you don't know what's going to happen, and just going along with every day and just going with the flow of what happens. This institute has really done that for me, because I had no idea like what I was going to do here when I first came to watch my first video. Like I came to watch a video about portable rock art, but that then led into me wanting to learn about the posture stances, and then that led into me like opening up portals that I just have shoved down and shoved things into and just kept closing the doors on. And in doing that, it just, I feel like I'm finding myself in this place with these people that make me feel safe. And in order for us all to be able to feel our inner compass, we have to feel safe. And it's just opened so much for me, so I can finally maybe like get out of the blind spot a little bit and like see what is my gift, what can I do, how can we make this better. Just little things, getting out of my own head and getting rid of all the pain or whatever I carried around, like the ecstatic trance postures, and then doing art after or writing. It just opens something in you that I guess it was just really closed for me for a really long time. And I'm very thankful. And I feel like it's about listening to our inner compass and listening. And like the introduction, I don't know who wrote it, but it was beautiful about the clocks and our egos, and turning off our egos is like, for me, the only way we're going to find our inner compass. And I sometimes feel like we have to stop asking questions to other people about ourselves. We have to do that work. And I've been doing that work, and it's hard, but like I've had you all, I've been sick. I have COVID, and I've been sick for over a week now. So I haven't been joining any of the trances and stuff. I'm taking a turn today. Thank God and Goddess. Thank Jesus. And
Whoops,
Fix them all. Yeah.
so that's why I feel blessed to just be here today. But I'm telling you, it made a difference in not being with you all a couple times a week. It just really did make a difference. And I just wanted to say you all are doing that for me. And I'm just so thankful.
Thank you. Your inner compass is doing that for you.
This is
I appreciate what Tony said also. It's like we're fumbling our way to ecstasy, to our joy, to our bliss. And we just read the signs, and that inner compass, I mean, I've had times where I'm going, okay, which door do I go into? I will go to the one that lights up. I actually physically see something light up, and it calls me, and I can't help but go. And I really appreciate it when my intellect, my intuition, and reason all come together. But sometimes you just have to take the path that lights up and trust. And it's sometimes you have to cross a little scary threshold or two, right? You feel like you're stepping across the abyss, but something leads you on and you land. Yeah. Thank you so much, Kelly. Thank you. Get well soon.
Yeah, kid. You definitely get well. And I know Julie and then Sister Margaret. Julie.
Okay. Hi. Sorry, I didn't put my hand up, but I did turn my mic off. I was out looking at about 50 years ago, a long time ago. I had an experience that led me to understand that in a perfect world, we'd all be like one atom of the entire body. And that we wouldn't need laws and rules because our bodies, like the bodies know the postures, our bodies automatically know what is right and wrong. Our bodies know how things are moving. We wouldn't even
have inner direction. Yeah.
We wouldn't even need train timetables because we know that when we got there, it'd be there. And because it was at a train station, I had this experience because I just knew that we actually, in a perfect world, we wouldn't actually need all this stuff. And I think just that, literally we were just one atom of the whole. And I think everything I have done since has been trying to get to understand that deeper, actually really trying to get to that point of having no resistance because that's all we do. As I had that experience about just the resistance I had. And I'm not sure if that makes sense to everybody, but it was a really profound experience of really knowing that that's what's perfect. But of course, we're dealing with such a lot of crap. Basically, we're made to feel inadequate so people can sell us stuff. And how do you put this perfect world, as I'm an atom, into all that stuff and actually come out of it? And I think that, the postures and the journeys and, everything that people do is really trying to get to that point of just totally flowing, basically. So that's all I want to say.
I would just say that it reminds me of an exercise that I read about where professional basketball players are asked to wear galoshes and weird gloves and try to play through that. And it's about asking you to develop better skills, even through the obstacles. And I sometimes think maybe that's what we're here on earth to do. Maybe we're just, really have to pull something deep out of us to overcome the obstacles, the training course, jump higher to get over that barrier. Because without it, we're not really asking ourselves to go the extra distance and develop the extra muscles and skills. So I kind of look at it like that. We're in training. And if everything was just handed to us, where would the challenge be? Yeah. But I appreciate what you're saying. But it must be fun for, the birds that all do this, or the fish, schools of fish that do this. Yeah. What joy that must be to all be in sync, right? To dance in sync. But Sister Margaret, yeah.
She is.
Well, I think my mother set my compass very early.
Oh,
She was a planner. If we were going on a trip, she had to know when we were going to leave, all the stops we were going to make, and then if something didn't work out, she'd be disappointed. And I thought, I don't want to live that way. So I think I became an opportunist. I don't know if that's a positive word, but anyway, what Tony was talking about, taking advantage of what comes along.
Yes.
You know, one of my examples, of course, is when I was ready for a sabbatical from the university and the letter came from Chile inviting us to go to Chile, I said, oh, yes. There's I don't know if I'd call it a light, or in Chile we call it seguir tu encanto, follow your dream.
Follow your dream,
or follow the call. And I think it's given me a terrific life.
oh, indeed. You've had such interesting adventures, Sister Margaret.
Yeah.
And if we don't do that, aren't we truly lost if we're not following that inner compass?
Yeah.
That's how we get lost in life.
Yeah.
And adrift. Yeah.
Well said. Thank you, Sister Margaret. And if you haven't heard Sister Margaret's story, we have both a podcast and video of her life. It's quite interesting. You're going to want to check those out.
Yeah.
Sure. Lelania is up. And after Lelania, anybody else? We're not going to obligate everybody to speak, but
put up your hand.
Put up your hands and join in.
Because we have many more attributes to cover.
Yeah. Okay. And here's Lelania.
Well, I think I was always a curious seeker, like I was brought up in the Protestant Christian faith, and I was always like, at first it felt so great that Jesus just loved me, just to have that support, And then as I got older, I was always asking questions, and then carried on asking questions. And so I think it's the curiosity leads me, so to speak. But also, the other thing that I've noticed is that, as Tony mentioned, somebody bringing him to the Institute, Elsa Echeverry, a Korean gay teacher, invited me to a session. So I often find that I'm invited, like Sister Margaret was invited to Chile. Like the invitations from Source come along, and then your inner compass says, sure, why not? Let's try something different, So that's it. And I think that community, the support of community and individuals helping each other is huge. Because I've been so helped by so many people to this path. So
yeah.
And no more powerful example of community than what's happening in Maui right now with you and your island and the people of Maui. And so that's where community comes together and, give direction, right? Give power to things. So
totally. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Love to Maui from over here. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you all so much. We need all the love and light you can send on over.
Yeah.
It's also though when those things show up in our environment, or we get these invitations, or we hear something, it's like something pings deep within us. There's a chord there that gets struck, and you just know. It's just this sense of sureness, this sense of absolute yes, right? And when I met you, that pinged. I knew you were the one pretty quickly on. You had the same with me. We just knew, right? You just wait for that ping. I think that's part of the inner compass. It just lets you know when everything lines up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The incredible things. All of us have tons of stories about those things that's happening when you let them happen, and how life took directions that would never, how I ended up growing up on the one side of the country, you on the other, and then how everything has come together in a way that it seems like, how in the heck did that go? Where did that come from?
We all have those.
Yeah. Everybody has a story. Yeah. No one else has raised their hands yet. So raise your hands if you want to join.
We can go to the next attribute.
We can go to the next attribute, but we'll give you another minute. Anybody want to join in on this part of it before we move forward?
Yeah.
This
is fun because there's attributes that I hadn't really considered before in this list. So,
and Tony typed, you go ahead and read Tony's.
Tony says, I did a detailed decision matrix for my first job out of grad school. The quote, best offer was from a major aerospace company located in Redondo Beach. Was even told I could take mornings off to go surfing. This won the matrix analysis. I got this quote, sick feeling, and instead took the lowest offer that let me dance in the world I wanted to be in. One of the best decisions in my life, and part of empowering everything in my life's purpose that has followed. Source is operative when we listen, and we cannot think we can outsmart it.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. Source is operative when we listen. I think it's always communicating with us.
Yeah.
It's just, do we want to open our ears to it? And that is our own choice. That's where we have free will. Yeah.
Back to slides.
Yeah, let's go back to the slides. Thank you for those stories. Let's see what else is on this list.
Next slide.
Oh, here, you've pressed the button. Integrity and authenticity, they define as a commitment and ability to act with sincerity, honesty, and integrity. Integrity and authenticity. I will tell you one story, because I will say that I was talking with a life coach. You can turn this off now. We can talk to the community. I was talking with a life coach who was part of one of our workshops that we held in Seattle. And she afterwards said to me, do you guys realize that what you're doing is really helping people find their authentic core? It's very difficult to talk to your soul or have your soul show up naked to you, where you can dialogue with this. And I thought that was so interesting, because indeed, I feel like part of what this work does, and that's why we say, slip out of your intellect alone and let this other muscle come forward in dialogue with the spirit, because this spirit comes through your soul. It's speaking directly to your soul. And then when you're in the state of the waking dream, your intellect is listening. Your intellect is now listening to your soul. And sometimes that soul is operating subconsciously, right? It's operating in a way we can't always get at it, because there's so many other voices that we're responding to. And so she said, when your authentic voice comes through, she said, that is what I'm trying to elicit and help the clients that she life coaches hear more directly. So she wanted to incorporate this work with sessions in her coaching business. Her coaching specialty was to help women who had sat out of the workforce to raise a family, come back into the workforce, but say joyfully, what is my personal branding? What do I have to offer the companies that I'm applying for? How can I identify what my true skill set is, what I have to bring to the table?
Yeah.
And I think, like that, one of the questions that spontaneously we've noticed come up again and again, and that we've dialogued on here, is, well, what are my contributions for the world? What am I here to do? What is my destiny? What do I have as my unique skill sets?
Right. Do what I can.
My wisdom, teachings, my whatever. What am I going to contribute? And I think maybe that's something to answer here. What have you noticed as one of your unique skill sets, the thing that you most can offer the world? So let's answer it in that way.
Okay.
Authenticity and integrity.
And unique, the unique voice
Yeah.
that one has.
Yeah.
Not trying to be anything other than yourself.
Well, I have to say that is an important aspect, because in many of the radio interviews that we had, and we talked about all the wisdom traditions, one that really grabbed us was what Bucky Fuller said.
Oh, yeah.
Find what you and you alone can do, and do that. And that prompted us to leave a really wonderful radio talk show host career and do this.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, a lot of people can talk to everybody else in the world, but who's picking up this work? This is an untold story that we felt that we must help tell. You have this inner capacity to dialogue with self, small self, larger self, right? We follow that path.
Yeah.
Sometimes we think to our own detriment, but here we are. Anyway, so Authenticity. How has this work helped you find your authentic voice, your unique skill sets, your contributions to the world?
Just general comments about that authentic voice aspect of it, whether it's tied to this voice or not, but just finding in your life journey how that voice has come forward.
Your authentic self.
And the times that it's not being recognized is when you deviate from your own individual power. You find yourself in a weakened position by not honoring that.
Trying to be something that you're not.
Yeah,
trying to.
Right. And maybe a little bit what Kelly said, there's a lot of social pressures, especially for women to not to step forward, not to speak too loudly, to be soft, to be in the background, And so it's like, it's okay for a man to come forward and be intense and, oh my, isn't he powerful? Isn't he amazing? When she does it, there's a B word that we use. Yeah. So anyway, all of those aspects. Anybody want to raise their hands on that topic as well? And I was maybe going to pick on Lauren Archer for a moment because she's done a lot of work with life coaching and all of that, which you touched on just now, and how finding that authentic voice is part of the work that she has represented and worked with as well. So yeah.
Lauren, you have worked on that extensively through additional means. Let's hear what you have to say. Paul's going to put you on the spot.
Yeah. Good.
I have. It's so inspiring listening to this conversation because I'm actually, but I'm not sure how my signal is.
It's a little bit iffy. So
far,
my signal seems to keep cutting in and out.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm on my phone and I tried to take you out for a walk with me, but that didn't work. So anyway,
I think we are going to.
We thought we lost you.
Shoot. Well,
let's circle back.
Yeah, we'll circle back when you find a more stable location. And Donna wants to join in on the conversation, so let's have Donna join in. Hi, Donna.
Hi, I'm new to calling in, but I've been following you guys for a long time. And I wanted to comment on something that keeps coming up for me since we first talked about the inner compass. In my early 20s, I was working in Atlantic City in a casino, and I was really unsatisfied. And sometimes we're drawn to change, when we're just not satisfied with what we see around us. So I was doing meditation and doing like alternate nostril breathing. I was young, 22 maybe. And I had an epiphany, the golden oil, the pineal, whatever happened. But I wanted to bring this up because once you've seen it, you never forget. So that led through, I'm in my early 60s now, a whole lifetime of always knowing that that's present and available. And the way it manifests for me is it's like a call and response. And different types of altered states of consciousness. I became a body worker. After that epiphany, I just was saying, like, show me my work. I'm ready. And doing the breathing, and then boom, And so I've been a somatic therapist for 30 something years, a nurse, and now I do clinical hypnotherapy, and then I found the postures. But it's all this different modes of the call and response. And like you said, they're always waiting. They're ready, whether it's full moon, making an altar, or doing a soul retrieval for someone. They're just there. And I experience it almost, the need for ritual and incorporating that into your life. So it's not when things are bad, I'm going to, reach out. It's just always there, and just making that ritual, and that, you're speaking to creator, it's, or creation, creator, your higher self, doesn't really matter. It's just opening up your heart and letting it come in. And sometimes I, especially after doing postures, I always feel like, this feeling is so great. Why don't I do this more often? Because there's a certain peace that comes that's, transcendent. So I just wanted to add that. And I wanted to thank you guys. I came to this group through Lisa Woodside, maybe?
Yes, Lisa, yes.
And then, and then Nick, I serendipitously met Nick in Woodstock and studied with him and did a small group with him, Nicholas Brink. And I'm just very happy to be a part of this community. So thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Yeah, I'm so glad you found us. Absolutely.
And call and response, absolutely the key. We have the free will. We knock on the door. We open our ears. We open our pores and let it pour in, right? But we have to be the one to initiate the opening. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And, you know, sometimes I think it really doesn't matter what you do, as long as you're calling out and opening up and surrendering to this higher field, right? There's so many avenues. And I think it's such a beneficent universe that there's so many techniques and rituals and avenues and methods to open up, and spontaneously as well. Right. And
yeah.
I think spirit doesn't care what you do, just open, and it comes pouring through because it's already there. Thank you for that, Donna.
Yeah.
And welcome.
And
good to know you.
Tony wanted to jump back on for a moment here. Where's Tony? There he is.
Yes, a very quick request. Paul builds magnificent structures that come from another world. And I'd love to hear Paul talk about that, if this is not too rude of me to impose on the host.
Oh, well, thank you, Tony.
He's been doing that since the day I met him. He will go out and make land art. He'll go out and rearrange things in the environment and then play his flute, drum, something, just to say, hello, Mother Earth, I appreciate you. You speak to that.
Well, I think we all have that in us. It's just something that I've always had this thing of wanting to have that creation around me.
Yeah.
So when I'm in Maui on the beach, I'm one of the guys that are making a circle with stuff that's available and digging a hole and sitting in the center of it and enjoying that. Or whether I was in Australia, where we were traveling around all of the back side of places, we would just find whatever elements and do something, but not in a disturbing way that can't just be erased immediately when I leave. I understand that there's also controversy.
You weren't moving rocks, you're moving
right. I mean, here in Sedona, actually, let me go back to the Institute. You know, one of the educational things that we learned by talking to the archaeologists and the people that really understand the traditions of the Pueblo people. Every stone might have a story. You have to be careful about just picking things up and changing things. So we're very careful at the Institute that the disturbance of artifacts or disturbance of land elements is just around the buildings themselves. And we tell students not to go out and start creating things on the land because of the fact that it could be an archaeological
somebody
site.
came before to create things on the land, and you don't want to.
Exactly. So there's a balance between that. So you asked me to talk about my story, but I also wanted to mention that there's a sensitivity to doing that as well. You know, I've created the working with Julie for the labyrinth at the Institute, but also we just did another stone circle here that we're working with. It's a story, you know, where no matter where we go, we see that as an element of nature.
It's your form of calling.
It's an artistic
because you're saying any space can become sacred when we pay attention to it, when we line it up, when we welcome spirit, when we welcome an opening. I think of the sacred space most important right here within each of us.
Sure.
But it's also lovely to create one in our physical reality as a portal, activate it. Yeah.
I think in coming back to what Donna pointed out, and that is that there's a power to ritual that cannot be dismissed. And so sometimes, like we talk about with the posture work, it's not about just all of a sudden hitting a rattle and holding a posture. It's about putting the circumstances around oneself to allow for that process, that doorway to be opened. So ritual has steps, it has foundational elements to it, and it's shown in cultures around the world going back as far as we can track in human history. Ritual is the foundation. So I always feel a calling to that aspect of ritual. I always feel like that's an important part of it, not from any other element other than just trying to respectfully understand the sacred elements of wherever I'm at. When I first, speaking of Maui, and I'll close my storytelling segment of this program, you know, when Laura's parents bought a condo, beautiful condo on the ocean, incredible. But there's so much tourism and there's so much stuff going on. It didn't have that. And I just said, I'm not that excited. And here I have a family condo on the ocean, yet I don't want to go that much because it just felt so So immediately I had to come up with steps of ritual to honor, because the power of that place is so intense that if you can get up in the morning, you can go out to the beach before the tourists get out and get their iPhones out and everybody's talking and all the noise is going on. Go out to the beach and watch the sunrise and greet the ocean and listen to nature. All of a sudden, I found myself just trancing in a whole different way of experience, and I couldn't wait to go back to Maui when I could embrace it from that element and step away from all of the the New Yorkers with the loud voices on the phone walking down the paved walkways, and it's like, oh my God, you're on
We soon
vacation.
found the Outrigger Canoe
Yeah,
Club, and we go out with them. in
That
the
was
mornings.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tony, thank you for. I don't know if I.
And Paul, you have to mention what's happened in Sedona, and that you're going to do a time capsule on.
Oh, I know.
You're gonna have to help him do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, are you going to be coming this 2 weeks?
I'm struggling with that for a couple of reasons, and I'll talk to you guys offline
Okay,
about it.
we'll talk later. All right. Anyway,
I
thank you.
can't imagine a better place to be. It's
Yeah.
just how my world is coming together.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk to Farzad, because Farzad, you have told us about, if we can put you on the spot, that you're a professor at NYU. You teach in religion and humanities and chemistry, and you've created these safe zones for students to come together and have tea. I think of that as a ritual.
That is ritual.
I think of that as creating a portal, a safe zone. Tell us a little bit about that, if you would.
Well, you read my mind, because as Paul was winding, as Tony was winding down, I thought, okay, it's a good time to put my hand up, and then you you put me on the spot, which I was already at, so that was fun. I was thinking, as Paul was telling his story. I mean, there was something, coming from what Donna said about, it's always there. And then Paul started talking about just like picking up stuff that's always there and working with it, and stones and the whole thing. And then the importance of ritual and all that. And as I was hearing that, I was thinking, like, my big challenge is I have to start teaching on Tuesday, which I love teaching, but it's always this challenge of, is it working? Is this, the whole thing that you do whenever you try to meditate or anything else, you go, is this working? Am I doing the right thing and all that? So I started to think about it in that way. It's like, I have, in the way that you were describing, except instead of stones and rocks, I was thinking of students and the stuff they say, and the setting of a university classroom, under fluorescent lights, with or without windows. And also in New York, I'm teaching in New York University, so that's all going on the outside, on the before and after of every class. And so I'm thinking, what
ritual could you invite them to start off with a little bit of,
without ever saying the word ritual, but just knowing that internal process in
because
which
we can work with what we have, right?
The
elements of hand.
That's exactly what I was thinking. How do I have some level of ritual that I'm enacting, that I know that I'm going to do? And then on the other hand, it's the other thing, I think you said this, Laura, it doesn't matter really what you do. So I have a syllabus. I have, like, it's a core course. So there's we have a time period between, like, antiquity and 700, or the other one starts in 1800 and moves to the present. So there's stuff, but then in the end, I get tangled up in the wheels of, must say, must do this, etc. And between, what am I good at versus what am I not good at? I'm not really good at doing the linear presentation. I like it. I mean, I'm not always perfect at that, but what I'm good at is, like, making people wonder what the hell is going on, and arousing
question everything.
Basically just kind of engaging with wherever they're at, and using those things as stones to build something that hopefully will resemble the thing that I was going to talk about anyway. And sometimes it works.
We start off every workshop by gathering people around in a circle and saying, what brought you here? What call to adventure brought you here? Because your students are on a quest. They signed up for your workshop or your class for a particular question that they have about life, something that just to hear that would be interesting. We have Chris Van Poel in the room, Chris and Todd. And they're also professors of
I'm kidding.
anthropology.
And their classes are just
And
starting as well.
we'd like to ask, I mean, maybe they have something to add to this because they're very ritual oriented. Yeah.
Yes.
Leave Farzad and let's add, if we can.
Yeah.
You guys are ready. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was listening to it and identifying with trying to go linear, sticking to my syllabi. Wow, there's a lot I could personally say to you that I share that common feelings and those threads with you completely. And we started 2 weeks ago, so I envy that you're not in the classroom yet. But it is a struggle. And so you try to think about how can I be my whatever this core person I'm supposed to be with my core moral compass, but also what can I do to listen to students and guide students and help students. It's an undertaking. I don't know about you, but it's an undertaking. And yeah, rituals. So last year I did a capstone class, which is the mandatory writing course for all seniors, and had a huge override. What was it? Some incredible amount more than the university we work at. We're at University of Missouri, Mizzou. And I had a huge class override, but I had rituals of one, taking a deep breath, saying a prayer, that I listen and be patient. But that's one of the things I told Todd just now, I said, oh, I haven't prayed before I went in the classroom today. I think because I'm feeling more secure with the classes I'm teaching right now than I was last semester. But and one of those things I just, pray. But sometimes I tell myself, I don't know about you guys, you're talking about ego. And I think Kelly talked about ego. I tell myself, okay, Chris, park your ego ass on the curb outside the building, go in with that, drop her, leave her behind, the ego. I find that personally, I don't know about you guys, but my ego is really messed up. My moral compass is sometimes wonky. I am far from a perfect person, and I have to park her outside. But those are some of the struggles I have, is trying to listen and be authentic for the students, and trying to navigate what this younger generation, that I don't know about New York City or New York, but we have a lot of upset people. We have people wanting to tear stuff down and just cause mayhem and malcontent. And it's really a struggle to say, no, let's just stop. Let's listen. Let's try to understand what the author's trying to say. Let's not shred it. Let's try to listen. And that's always a struggle. But those are some of the things that just hit me with what you all were saying.
I agree with everything you were saying, so I don't have anything to add, but that your points are well landed, well stated.
Yes, well stated.
Yeah.
What do you find with ritual body postures that might help find one's moral compass, Chris?
I don't know. Here's an interesting thought process. The questions you're asking are out of psychology. They're not out of anthropology. Right. These are not questions that anthropologists historically have asked. What anthropologists ask is, how do cultures function? How do cultures enable people to do things? But more importantly, how does culture push its agenda into people to make that for that person? So most Native Americans, and I've had a lot of Native Americans in my courses, and here's a fundamental premise for most Native Americans: you are not yourself. You are your family. You are your clan. You cannot be yourself. In fact, the type of questions we're talking about now, for a lot of Native Americans would say, you're getting it all wrong. This is bad juju. When you're so individualized that you're doing something that's not part of your family or part of your culture, it becomes a real danger. And so we in anthropology just think about things so differently. So we're looking more at how culture impacts and how people negotiate with their culture, their parent culture. So this is a bit of a different thing for us, because again, I will just say that these are psychological questions, because they're dealing with personal beliefs. And that is for social scientists, which most anthropologists in our field are social scientists, that these are subjective. These are really personal. And well, for a cultural anthropologist to answer this question, I have to have IRB approval. I have to do all kinds of hoops and loops to do this. And so it's much easier to do big cultural things where I do big cultural crunching, because I don't have to go through this pesky thing called IRB. And I know you laugh as a professor, like, oh, IRB. And we're on our second wave of another IRB for these type of questions.
Internal Revenue Board.
No, it's Internal Review Board.
Review Board. Thank you.
Yeah, it's internal. Yeah, really close.
Internal Review Board, so they can. Well, I will say that, look, we live in a culture in which we're all identifying as individuals, that we're
Right, but we're
pilots.
unusual worldwide
Right.
and through time and history, throughout the deep history. And
And
I
maybe
mean,
that's why we're in so much trouble and we've gone so far off track. But I will say that we are trying to find our way home. That's why we're all here in this community. We are trying to find our way home. We are using a very ancient technique to do so, something that is just part of us.
From the
We're
navigation, the
listening.
navigation.
And
tool.
it's so interesting to me that what we're finding is you're part of a whole. Over and over again, our experiences is the bliss and the communion and the pat on the back, the sense that we are part of a whole, and the sense of safety and oneness and comfort that comes with that. That's new to us. That's like an elixir to we Western moderns, isn't it?
Yeah.
We don't get that in our society as a matter of course. We have to go seek it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we're here. When the ancestors show up and
Right.
affirm to you, hey, you're the latest rung on a very long chain.
Sure.
Now, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? And I think that we're just so compelled to reach out and find community and find our way home. I think that's extraordinary in light of what you just said. Yeah.
It's funny, just putting all that together. Again, hearing you, I hear this stuff in my head. I have this club, this tea and philosophy club after classes, and that always goes really well because they kind of form their own culture, and they pick the readings, and I'm a participant, and I basically when I find something funny, I laugh, and I make it worse, funnier, and then they do all the rest of the work. I mean, I'm just anyway. So that just kind of cultures up itself. It's kind of like the context helps it happen the way that this setting, what you're doing, does as well. So trying to get that into the classroom is funny, difficult because there's no grades in a club. In a classroom, there's grades, and then there's very individual. Each grade is their individual grade. So I lately have been, looking back, I see that what works pretty nicely is to trick them into feeling like they're a culture by making up these, like group activity things that could be about anything, nothing, whatever. But then the relationships, the interconnections that they make based on whatever it is, that lasts. And then after that, it's like, that's most of the work. And then they'll kind of help each other. And they're like in it together, whatever it is. And so I'm going to try to do that more explicitly. I've kind of watched it happen sometimes and watch it not happen sometimes. So happening is much more fun. And then, being part of this group right now, hearing how this is a common kind of, hearing all the explicit details of it from different people and from yourselves is really
it's also sort of a sociological thing that we're talking about too, even though that may not be your field of research or study, but the idea that you have the 19-year-olds coming in and there's dysfunction, there's things happening different maybe than previous classes. Every year there's something going on, and there's something reflected culturally in the youth of this country specifically, but it's not just this country, it's worldwide. There's a shift, a dramatic shift, a change of what's interesting and what's not interesting, where things are going, and different from our generations. They just have a different way of approaching things. There's certain things they just don't care about that we cared about, but they care about things so much more maybe that we missed.
Yeah, but look what we were to our parents, right?
I know, every generation. I know
how different we were. I wanted to say that what you're describing for me, Farzad, is that you're creating a container and you're seeing what wants to emerge naturally. And I think there's such beauty in that. And that seems to be our protocol as well, that we set up a container, we're tuned to an antenna configuration, but we leave the portal open and we're seeing what wants to emerge. And what wants to emerge is so much more beautiful, meaningful, startling, shift producing than what we could dream up from our intellect. So I love that it's not top down. We're not deciding in advance what's going to happen. We just create the container for whatever wants to emerge to grab us by our hearts and souls and lead us somewhere that we didn't know we needed to go. Wouldn't you agree? Chris,
Yeah.
on top of what you see. I mean, that is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And perhaps that is the medicine we need, that this field knows more than we do about what we need individually and collectively.
Right.
And I think that's where we say the spirits come in to teach us.
Yeah.
And we're profoundly startled and grateful. And yeah.
Well,
So
thank you and you, all three of you.
Anything else you want to say on this?
Yeah. All right.
Thank you for that.
I know you have about 20 more slides. I wanted to also give you a chance to finish your
I
presentation.
have a couple more people
But I
who
will
want to
finish.
speak
Yeah,
to this.
Julie has her hand up, and Kelly also
Yeah.
wanted to jump in.
Yeah, quickly, ladies.
Yeah. Well, here we go. Oh, hello, Julie.
Oh, hi. I just wanted to say, whenever I teach a shamanic workshop, what I do is I hand around a basket full of pebbles.
Yeah.
And I get them, everybody to choose a pebble, and I get people to blow into that pebble everything they do not need for that session, for those few hours. And I have had teachers say to me that they're going to instigate that in their classrooms because they can feel the energy just changing, and it works really well. And then afterwards, I gather all the pebbles up and I take them back to the sea, basically.
Yes. For a good cleansing.
So because it cleans them, really, really worthwhile doing. It's a lovely thing to do, and people are always amused as well.
Oh, so great idea. Yes, wonderful.
That is so beautiful, to blow into a pebble. So you're allowing people to focus their intention. There's an intention. I release this. I clear the space for something new to bubble up, right? And then a ritual that you can do, building on the power of community. You do the same thing with write your stuff on a piece of paper,
in a fire,
give it to the fire, release it.
Yeah.
Right. That's the power of ritual right there, helping us focus an intent and a shift in our energy. Beautiful.
Good one, Julie.
Beautiful. You might try that, Farzad.
Yeah. We have a friend named Farhad.
I know. I know.
Yeah. Okay.
Also,
Kelly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I was just thinking that when I was in, I guess, just right after high school, when I was doing community college, one of my creative writing teachers, he did this thing where he asked us what we wanted to do in the beginning of class. Like, it was at the end of the day. It was a long day. And I just always think about that because, everyone starting a class is nervous, not just the teacher. And like the energy that you have for your tea, I just feel like just scoop a little bit of that up, take it with you, and just be humble, because that's, to me, is the teachers that I learned from the most were humble and also curious, and just got me thinking. And you seem like that very much, like, already. So we're talking about authenticity. So I think just be yourself, and it's going to be wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you, Kelly. Nice.
Thank you.
Nice addition.
How can we bring our best self if we don't know ourselves?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Why don't we return to the slideshow?
Sure.
And so you can, because I wanted to get through.
Interesting. I'm still mulling over what you said, Chris, because I hadn't, thought of this growing up in the culture I am. I'm thinking, I can only work with me because I really don't have the whole continuity of culture from hunter-gatherer to today to work with in my culture. What do I have? What is my toolkit as growing up in this society? And I think that's fascinating what you said. I can't even imagine growing up in a different society. I don't have that opportunity, but I do have that homing instinct. I do have that GPS to come home again and to work with the greater all.
Yeah.
At least I can work with that. My society's in disarray, but I can tune in to that and maybe ask that to be the bridge to lead us home, to lead me home. And then everyone else is being led home as well. We start with what we have.
I can see that this topic.
Maybe that's why we're fascinated by our early cultures and what they have that we can bring forward. That's fascinating. Thank you.
I was going to say, I can see that this topic could be an entire workshop. It could be an entire semester. I mean, the idea of flourishing can go deep. But let's go through your slideshow.
And how do we get back into right relation? We start with self, but then we build to community, and then we build. So what's the next one on the list?
I'm going.
Openness and learning mindset. having a basic mindset of curiosity and a willingness to be vulnerable and embrace change and grow, a capacity to be open to learning, reevaluation, and be curious about alternative ways of perceiving and interpreting various issues, requires a self that has a considerable measure of robustness.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's everything we've been talking about.
Next.
Yeah. I just want to get this
No.
rush. Complexity awareness, understanding of and skills in working with complex and systemic conditions and causalities. Yeah. All right, let's keep going. Self-awareness, the ability to be in reflective contact with one's own thoughts, feelings, and desires, having a realistic self-image and ability to regulate oneself. Self-awareness, we can bring that to the community. That's an easy one to talk about. Because really what we're doing is I think, can you take that slide off now?
Oh, you want, okay.
Yeah, I think for me, what this work brings to my self-awareness, I think it's showing me aspects of myself. I think that we're working with self and parts of self in our psyche that we don't, in our day-to-day waking state, don't always have the ability to have access to or to hear or to see. And I think that this, whatever we call spirits, can be defined so variously, so widely. I think for me, my understanding, I'd like to hear from all of you, is that it is showing me a larger dimension of my own psyche and this connection to the all, to all consciousness, but it works through this. It's showing me facets of my own psyche, because it can only speak to that. I can only hear through that lens, right? If I were a different creature, like think of the whales and their giant brains and how they're tuned to their universe. They're speaking to Earth in a dialogue, navigating across oceans, calling out, and their voice being heard through miles to hear other whales. It has to be a very different lens through which that same consciousness is working with Mother Earth.
Right.
I'm here in this one, and I have to see it through symbol and language and gesture and color and form. I mean, I'm gifted with that language through which spirit speaks to us to create a visionary experience. I have to do it through my language. Think of the bees. The bees come and they want to dance for their community. Hey, the honey flowers are over here. This is where you need to go. They're speaking in their language. I think we're given so many different languages to speak through, but we still do it through our own lens. We do it through the beautiful imagery that we try to write down or sketch on paper. That's part of it. We do it through words. When we come in from a sense of, oh, this was beyond words, I can't even express this in words. Yet, the more we sit with it, we find the words, inadequate as they are, right? We have to speak through that lens. So that for me is self-awareness. It's lighting up more of my own psyche and connective tissue to spirit with which I can then communicate and make a two-way street of dialogue. It gives me more capacity for the dialogue with our creator, the creatrix, the creative matrix. That's how I would express it. How are you expressing it?
You want to go back around table?
Self-awareness. Yeah. Who wants to say something to this? How is it working for you in your inner space?
Yeah. And if the hands go up, I'll call on somebody. No one's raised their hands yet, but
how does it work for you?
It's
hard to put into words, isn't it? It's just like you feel like you're fumbling towards,
Well, I mean, that idea of self-image, regulating what Kelly talked about, that balance between ego and self, but also having the pride of the gifts that has been given to you. You know, it's like there's a balance.
A sure-footedness to use them.
Yes, because there's also the downside of choosing the humility in a negative, suppressive way, that you don't allow yourself to give voice to that which has been gifted to you.
Got it.
That's a big issue for people. And I will say in my life, I remember, I'll just tell a quick story. When my mother died, My mother was very frugal, typical New Englander. I'm from Maine, and she put money away. She wanted to pay for her own funeral, the whole thing. She said, "I just don't want a big thing at a church. I want to be buried, and so we'll go to graves, do a gravesite ritual." And so we went to the gravesite. But my mother was very, very well connected. First of all, she was one of 9. She had a large family. My grandmother was one of 22. So the state of Maine is like, I got relatives everywhere. And all of a sudden, and I hadn't been back to Maine for a long time. And I'm standing by the gravesite and I see people walking up this road, this pathway. And I'm recognizing faces from my past, one after another, after another. All of a sudden, there's 80, 100 people coming for a gravesite. I mean, my mother was being frugal. It was very hot that day, but people from all ages, but way up to the elderly people that were standing there. And I stood up on the mound of dirt next to the gravesite. Never in my life have I felt so much like, this is not about me. I need to speak to my mother in the proper way. I need to find a voice of strength, of power. I need to find that I reflect her. And then, whether I feel shy about speaking or whatever, that has nothing to do with this. And in that moment, it actually gave me the fundamental teachings of what it is to be a teacher, to be able to get past my own insecurities, my own concerns, my shyness, my whatever you want to call it, the misconstrued elements,
self-doubts.
And realizing that that there's a gift there, and the gift has been given to me. And shut the hell up, the inner dialogue, and speak loudly. And so, of course, I was surrounded by people that knew the family history much more than I did, but it didn't matter. I immediately started telling the entire family history, going back 200 years and talking, and don't know what I was saying, but it all made sense to me. But the point I'm trying to make is that sometimes
something was coming through you.
Right. And this came up the other day. I think we were talking in one of the training sessions or whatever. And I said, the thing about this work is that it's really not about you. And so if you are a representative of any kind of teaching that you've been given the gift to represent it, do the very best you can do and release it, and don't. We were just talking about that earlier today, that balance between ego, self, small self, larger self, that all those elements come into play, and how we can best represent that which has been gifted to us to represent. So, I want to just also mention that you can imagine when I first started holding workshops more than a decade ago at the Institute after Felicitas passing away. There's an incredible insecurity of after watching her
These
teach,
are big shoes to fill.
who the hell wants to teach this after what she did? Who wants to have this role? Who wants to participate? But I really was, first of all, I had a session with the postures that really, literally, there was like yelling at me, like, shut the hell up and go to work. You have skills we need you to do. You need to step up. You need to do these things. And so we had to find a way that no one should compare themselves to what Dr. Goodman did and what she was able to accomplish, because her gifts were just so plentiful. She brought so many different things to the table that there is no one person that's stepping up and taking over or having the role of what she had. But it does take community, and who can facilitate community? I think we have a gift of being able to facilitate community. That's where the voices come out, and then we have people like Farzad and Tony and the Van Pools and all of you speaking up, and the gifts that you bring to the table, so that we can all help engineer and navigate the path forward as a community. So we
hold up the tent poles and invite anybody in who wants to come and play in the sandbox. Yeah.
And your communication skills.
I appreciate what you're saying about the small self to the larger self, because I find that through those moments in this altered state, where I feel infused with the all, and I feel that I have dissolved to become one with something larger. And its gifts now are coursing through me as one of many conduits or vehicles that I have been assigned as a transmitter receiver I'm receiving its signal. I must transmit its signal. It's filling me up so much. It's spilling out. Its power, its force wants to move forward. And I'm just a willing nodule for the energy to come through and join the network of energy from everyone else coming through.
Yeah.
And in that, moments where you feel like I have just expanded to the state of being as large as the universe, and now I can see, I can feel, I can sense, I can feel its harmony, this life force. It's a glimpse, a momentary glimpse into that power, but it opens you up in a way where you never close back down again.
Perfect.
And so you have to step up and you say, I am wholly inadequate to the task, but all I can be is an open vessel and do my best to be an open vessel. And the joy of that power flowing through you. Okay, yeah, sign me up. I'll stay with, that's the reward right there. So that is going from small self to higher self. And I feel, Chris, in that sense, that's maybe what us Westerners can do. I can't do anything but that. That's what's assigned me. And I also have to trust that there's a reason for all of this that we've evolved here today. And I appreciate that in a couple of weeks, we'll be talking again with Brian Swim and joined by Monica DeRasp, where he's saying, and I think this is a message that makes it all perfect sense to me, I guess, is that, okay, we are where we are. And can we trust the universe and its wisdom that it wanted to evolve this way? Are we wholly a mistake, or are we just a piece of the grand puzzle? And that we have put on the table the technology and the scientific awareness and all the self-help movement of the last 50 years and garnishing all of the history that we can put on the table and look at it as a whole puzzle. If I were living in one of those societies, I would only know that society. But here where we are, we can put it all on the table and examine it. And then as Tyler Volk was saying, oh, look, cosmogenesis means we can grow, we can grow to this next level. Brian Swim is saying we can grow to this next level with this noosphere. We're adding to the knowledge base of the planet. We're part of that. What is it asking us to do next? There must be some evolutionary step that's next, because certainly previous cultures didn't have it all right. So what can we do with this next evolutionary step? What is it calling us to be? So I would prefer to look at us not as a grand mistake, but as a necessary step in the whole grand process, and to ask what wants to emerge. Let's be here. What wants to emerge? And I do take heart in the fact that so many, and as Brian Tucker, I wish he was here to point this out. He's been looking at all the various different groups that are saying, hey,
organizations,
what's the next step for the evolution of humankind? Right. How can we get it together finally? We have to at least give it a try, right? We have to say, here's where we are. What can we do?
Or at least
and
help
I guess
add
our
the navigation
calling,
of where we're going. And where do
let
we,
us all have a voice
at what
in
level
that.
can we participate and help with that navigation?
And I guess our voice, our unique voice, and this would be, let's pull in from what the ancestors have given us.
Right.
And all of those who've opened this pathway in this way to say many ways to activate our inner technology. Here's a way with ritual body. Here's one way. It's safe. It's easy. You're not going to overdose. It's self-empowering. You can do this on your own. You can do this in a group. At least let's hear what that. We were called to this one. Let's say, what can we do with this
coming back to that
technique?
That idea of what do I have to contribute? What is so in terms of talking about the global phenomenon that you're touching
Nobody
on,
else was going to step into this institute that we could, so we did. I mean, that's what we answered.
Sticking to this topic that you brought up with about Brian, and that is embodied spirituality is a component that needs to be recognized as part of society change, of social change, of growth, of the fabric of global consciousness and the impact on it. So there's always going to be the protesters on the street corners. There's always going to be people that are working on politically levels. There's people.
Well, thank God they're working on all these different levels, because
that's my point. Yeah. Listen, you only have 20 minutes. So Now, I want you
Okay.
to get to the end of your slideshow because you have some very important links to share.
Oh, yeah, I do.
And I also
Okay.
wanted to talk a little bit about the global collective
Okay, then
consciousness
let's
topic.
go through the rest of the, anybody, oh, Farzan wants to say something else, and we'll go through the
Okay,
list.
good. I didn't see his hand up. There we
Oh
go.
yeah, real quick. I just love everything you were saying. I put it in chat mostly to try to remember this. Before speaking ever publicly, to invoke ancestors and both blood ancestors and every other kind to help, because it's all there, right? And so that just came back to me through everything you were saying, Paul. And then before that, I was trying to type this while you were saying this. You mentioned bees and honey dances and all that stuff, and I remembered that I had elementary school kids do this bee dance, and they loved it. I mean, they're like 8, 7. They love to run around and jiggle and just spaz out outside. And I thought this would be great to do with undergrads. And I didn't do it back then, but I was thinking I got to try to do it now. It's just getting a space in New York to do that. It'll be either Washington Square Park, or we'll have to meet somewhere in a different location. And anyway, that's very inspiring to me, both of those, because the bees are our ancestors too, and dancing. I mean, it's all that ritual.
These are our ancestors too. Thank you. All of life is our ancestors. The stars are our ancestors.
No, but his point is so well taken. I mean, that
That's
idea.
beautiful.
And the whole bodily posture thing. I mean, that's got to get into classes more often.
Yeah, and Donna summarized it as the global bee dance. Yeah.
Be and being, right? That's perfect.
That's the
yeah.
The bee ritual.
Yeah. To be. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Dory's saying something interesting that I think.
Okay, go ahead. You want to read something?
Dory, do you want to speak to that? We like to hear all points of view.
I wrote because it's hard for me to talk today.
Okay.
I missed the whole I'm sort of distracted. I missed the whole beginning of this, but it's just so interesting plugging in, and I'm just like I said, I'm in shock from what Chris Van Poole had to say. It's like I can't imagine thinking myself of as I am my family, because my family was so crazy, and I've spent a lifetime trying to overcome that and just be my individual self. But then there's the task of reintegrating somehow, forgiving and accepting, and whoa.
I think she was pointing out the difference culturally of growing up in a community where maintaining right relations was a key component and a key concern. And look, we are so broken today. Yeah, my family doesn't know other members of the family. My immediate family didn't bother. So, I mean, I live in a pretty isolated family unto itself. So I understand what you're saying. And I think that's interesting how Chris was comparing and contrasting where we are today with where cultures have been in the past.
But
I think that was an important distinction.
Past.
Yeah.
These are real. This is now she's talking about people who retain their indigenous mindset and lifestyle.
Yeah.
And she's right that there is an assumption in all these questions that it all starts from within ourselves. We recreate ourselves from within psychologically. And where do those things come together now? Like you say, we're so broken in so many ways.
And no wonder we're all trying to go home. Home being that sense of oneness.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Dory. I can hear the distress in your voice, and I acknowledge that.
Yeah.
How broken we are.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And Julie said, by the way, there is a book, Shamanic Way of Bees. Shamanic Way of Bees by Simon Buxton.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh,
very cool. Yeah.
Okay. Back to the chart.
A quick side note. There's a great documentary film on Netflix, The Blue Zone. It's How to Live to Be 100 or something.
Oh my God. We're just starting to watch
talking about how much community matters to people living long lives, that isolation cuts many years off your life. And so you got to have community. Anyway, that it's about food, but it's about so much more than that.
It's about how the blue zones have naturally and organically from earlier days maintained themselves.
Yeah.
To produce the most number of centenarians, people who live to 100 and past.
Yeah.
And only in one, Sardinia, who was saying, do men and women have reached 100 in equal numbers?
Yeah.
Usually the women are reaching 100, 5 to 1.
And they're all active. They're 100, 102 years old, and they're running their gardens, and they're doing things.
They have community. They're not shoved into a nursing home. Their family.
They don't have any nursing homes there. Yeah. I mean, the community takes care of each other.
They say it was Okinawa, Sardinia, and somewhere in Costa Rica, and even Singapore.
Look it up.
He's saying Singapore is a engineered blue zone.
Yeah.
This is interesting. Singapore has put in place where they give an incentive to families who keep their elders within 500 meters so they can look after them.
Oh, yeah.
It's cheaper for the society than to create nursing homes to park older people.
Yeah.
And they're giving, they're taxing junk food, and they're subsidizing healthy food. So they're engineering in society ways to maintain mental and physical health and longevity. Hello, can we not do that today?
Yeah.
And then I think it'd be interesting to talk to the Van Pools about how did early societies do that?
Yeah.
How did they engineer? I know that early societies didn't have the healthcare, and they were out hunting. You'd have accidents, child mortality, but still they had a lot of pieces in place for emotional and mental and support and
they lived on hills
health.
And mountains, and they're walking a lot.
Nature. Yeah.
Anyway, let's go back to your
at.
slides. I want to continue, make sure you get through it. Okay, here we go. Sure.
Something to think about, and we are going to invite you to conduct the survey. Paul and I filled this out. This was really interesting. And part of the survey is, I'm only looking at the 23 attributes that the Inner Development Goals survey looks at. But part of it is they ask you, what are you doing that helps with these particular attributes?
Right.
Presence, the ability to be in the here and now without judgment and in a state of open-ended presence.
Oh, man.
Oh,
Yeah,
come out of we're coming out of our ritual body posture sessions with that.
Yeah.
We are in the here and now, the eternal now. We've talked a lot about that. We can talk about that later.
We always
this
talk.
is just a quick touch on this.
Yeah. And presence. I mean,
judgment.
I'm always saying that even when we honor the breath, there's something about stepping into the present moment and just feeling the presence of nowness, being in the now. All of a sudden, there's a release, like this is saying, the ability to be here and now without judgment, in a state of open-ended presence.
I also want to say that probably, to my mind, the sensory input, this glorious sense of sensory input that we have, is, I think, about being in the here and now, not in our heads, not in the past or the future, but in the now. Sensory awareness becomes first and foremost your sensing, inner, outer. It's beautiful. Critical thinking, skills in critically reviewing the validity of views, evidence, and
I
can't see the word.
Plans. Yeah.
I think what's interesting is we get a download about what to do. How do we solve a problem? How do we manage this particular project? We get downloads of insight in what to do. And then when people go out and do them, they report back to us, oh, this worked. This was beautiful. I saw everything. I saw in a holistic glance the entire project finished. I have got a lot. So next.
Okay. Kind of see why I clicked on the screen.
Just do your arrow.
There,
next.
That one.
Perspective skills in seeking, understanding, and actively making use of insights from contrasting perspectives. Okay, contrasting perspectives. Have you ever, in your trance state, felt like you were a tiny point, but an immense, like the entire earth, the entire ocean, the entire cosmos at once? A tiny point and the all.
Yeah.
The microcosm to the macrocosm simultaneously. I have several times.
Yeah.
It's glorious.
Yeah.
Actively making use of insights. Yeah, you get new insights that it expands your worldview. You can't go back after that to being smaller. Sense making, skills in seeing patterns, structuring the unknown, and being able to consciously create stories. Okay, this to me would be, and anybody jump in here, just turn on your mic because I'm not seeing your hand with the slide up. This would be where stories and myths, elements of myth, and this connective tissue comes up after we hear everybody around the circle. Some other storyline is coming up that has its robustness in the many variations on a common theme come up. It's not like I'm creating the stories. It's like the stories are being created through me and through the group, through the whole group. Stories arise, insights arise, lessons arise. So we become a conduit for the stories to emerge that are there eternally wise. The sages of the ages, we're adding to that. Long-term orientation and visioning, the ability to formulate and sustain commitment to visions relating to the larger context. Yeah, that's beautifully put. We are formulating and sustaining this commitment to the visions that arise about all the world is sacred, about there is a better world that we can create, co-create, that there is a larger story, that we are one and part with the universe. We are part of this womb of creation. That's the story that keeps coming up to us again and again and again in this work. I would say, yeah, appreciation, relating to others and to the world with a basic sense of appreciation, gratitude, and joy. How many times have we heard that?
Yeah.
This, you have to stop this for just a moment. How many times have we heard that? I'm full of gratitude. I'm full of joy.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Yeah, thank you. Everybody's raising their hand. Anybody want to speak to that quickly? Oh my gosh. This is what this inner development goal is after, to say what in your life brings this up. So Brian's request of us is to go and fill out the survey, because the entire world can download the results of the survey. Thousands of people are responding to the survey, but he wants CI to be on the map. He wants ritual body postures and ecstatic trance to be on the map, so that when the whole world looks at what has helped this, we're at least represented. We have 2 entries. We're asking for more. So part of this dialogue is to say, the deadline's coming up soon. Please, we're going to show you that link. Please respond, because it also is telling you, how did you get there? What helps you? And yeah, we're putting virtual body postures with Queen Monkey Institute, Felicitas Goodman's work, all of our work today. So this is the whole point of this, but let's continue. You've raised your hands. Thank you. We see so much gratitude and appreciation and joy. Joy, absolute bliss. Okay, what's the next one? Connectedness. Oh my gosh. Having a keen sense of being connected with, being part of a larger whole, community, humanity, global ecosystem. How about the cosmos at large? This is most profoundly intertwined with a felt identity. It involves feeling connected to and being a part of, knowing that you are part of a much larger whole. The sense of connectedness, more or less, automatically leads to a sense of caring for the well-being of the larger whole. How can we do anything less? How can we do anything less? Let's take it off. Show of hands.
Oh, yeah, you can.
Again, I just want to document this. Show of hands. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Yep. Okay, next. Oh, this is fun. This is fun. Oh my gosh. Humility, able to act in accordance with the needs of the situation without concern for one's importance. You just spoke to that, darling. This is so much larger than me, and I am so happy to be a part of it. And it is sweeping me up in its fold, and I am just thrilled to be part of the best community of all, which is the universe itself. Humility here means the capacity to act without concern for looking good in the eyes of others or of oneself. The stance of humility is here understood to be a consequence of not being overly identified with a certain self-image and a need to be confirmed in that self-image by others. No, it is the joy of being part of a whole and surrendering to that whole. You know, it's interesting that when people feel identified with Christ consciousness, those who were a little bit sick, we'd say, okay, I'm Jesus. No, no, no. It's like, I am part of that, of which Jesus was the identified avatar, right? It's, I am part of that whole. So empathy and compassion, ability to relate to others, oneself and nature with kindness, empathy and compassion, and the intention to address related suffering. The intention to address the related suffering. We can't just stop at feeling filled with the joy of the whole. It's that we're now feeling compassion and empathy to all those who aren't there yet. That's the compassion to say, hey, knock on your door within and download this life force and joy. That's our message. We're not gurus. We're just saying, we want to hand you the keys. Did you know? You have a doorway within. You might also be practicing other doorways. Here's another one. Here's another tool in your toolkit. This is how we're relating. We're addressing related suffering. Hey, you can all do this for yourself. You've got the doorway within for the complete direct experience. Open it up. Yeah. Communication skills, ability to really listen to others, to foster genuine, authentic dialogue, to advocate own views skillfully, to manage conflicts constructively, and to adapt communication to diverse groups. Yeah, those are definite communication skills we pay attention to. How can we speak to be heard to everyone? What are we all pinging to? How can we speak in multiple languages to be heard? We have a gift, we have a message worth sharing. We need to strengthen ourselves to be able to share it well.
In yesterday's posture that came up with someone feeling like their ears got really large and they really need to listen. They really need to learn to listen. Right.
And this was a skill downloaded that is represented by those huge activation of those ears.
And you'll see in the artifact, oversized ears as part of the artifact. Yeah.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Wow. Co-creation skills and motivation to build, develop, and facilitate collaborative relationships with diverse stakeholders, characterized by psychological safety and genuine co-creation. Wow. Brian Tucker, we will talk about the diverse stakeholders. When we understand that the stakeholders is every form of life on our planet, that's the stakeholders. Can we speak with a voice for all of the creatures, for all of the integrity of Earth, for Mother Earth herself? Can we speak to all the stakeholders? It's not just we humans. It's not just we Americans. It's everyone.
Us Americans.
Yeah. I had to do the accent, right? All of us are part of this. And we find in our trance state that that Earth is in communication with every other cosmic body out there. All the cosmologic, all the stars are involved in us. It's the larger field is the cosmos herself. That's how expanded this word gets. The inclusive mindset. You read this, my darling.
No, inclusive mindset, intercultural competence, willingness and competence to embrace diversity and include people and collectives with different views and backgrounds. Wow. I mean, that just makes so much sense.
That's why we're talking about all the early cultures, the ancestors, the spirits, right? That's our collective here. And trust, the ability to show trust and create and maintain trusting relationships.
Yeah.
We say that with every posture. Trust yourself, trust the spirits, trust your body, trust the universe, trust the vision that comes through.
Yeah.
That it's got something to say and to share and to give to you. Yeah. Mobilization skills, skill in inspiring and mobilizing others to engage in shared purposes. We do it through dialogue, right? We come together, let's open up this gift box together, see what wants to emerge, and then let's have dialogue. Let's move the dial through dialogue.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's been such a gift having the community host program the last couple of years where we had participants from like 14 countries at a time, and just seeing that interconnectedness and skills to inspire and share back and forth and the universality of the human experience.
Yeah. Okay, 2 more, and then we're going to give you the credit to this and then the links. Courage. You do courage.
Ability to stand up for values, making decisions, take decisive action, and if needed, challenge and disrupt existing structures and views.
I love that. Isn't it? It's right there. Disrupt existing structures and views. Take off our blinders, open up our bandwidth, expand our worldview. That's what we're all about here. And it's right there. I love this. Okay. Creativity. Go for it.
Me again?
Yeah.
Ability to generate and develop original ideas, innovate, and being willing to disrupt conventional patterns.
We have to, right?
Yeah.
What we're doing is not working. We have to shake up the whole and
that's
bring in the real, true, authentic, natural patterns that human beings were assigned from our creator. That's
and
my
sometimes patterns are just cultural. They're not even some kind of
Yeah.
normal for the entire humanity. It's like watching the Blue Zone, and you see that there's cultures that do things totally different and incredibly well. And we've been kind of like put on our blinders in Western culture to think that there's a certain
Our
way.
way is the only way. Our way is the best way. Our way is.
We maybe don't even think
Yeah.
it's the best way. It's the only way we know because we didn't take the time
So
to
we
do
have
our
to
homework.
unlearn and relearn.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's turn it off, and then we're going to come back and do a sign off. But let's hear from you in the last
Well,
10
let's
minutes.
give out the links.
Okay. Yeah.
Because
Okay. Right now.
you
Yes.
can
Oh, did we do creativity? Yes, we did.
Yeah.
We did that. Okay.
Okay.
So
Enter
this was the-
innerdevelopmentgoals.org. Innerdevelopmentgoals.org.
really a well thought out plan to look at and ask, how do we develop the skill sets that we all need to strengthen within us and within one another to meet the challenges ahead and to create and to envision the world that we can all agree on, the world that will work for all of us, all stakeholders, including the planet herself. That's, I'm so excited that this has become a thing, and there's major institutions that are supporting this. And Brian's deal is, hey, you've got a tool that they would want to know about. Let's put ourselves on the map. So that's why we're asking you to please look at this inner development goal survey. And if they are asking, which they will, what are you doing to instill these, to develop these qualities? If you truly feel that this work with Kuimange Institute, with ritual body postures, with ecstatic trance is one of the means, please just put that down in
When you
clear
say-
black and white terms,
Yeah.
because the whole world can be reading the results of the survey.
Well, if this deadline ends the first week in September, people need to do this today. I mean, when does this thing end?
Brian is saying that they're coming out and they're closing the gates on this mid-September. So
Oh, mid-September.
I'm just saying,
Do it now.
this is the first week of September, like do it now.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what was the last slide? Oh, that was the last slide. Okay.
Yeah.
And I put both
So-
links in the chat room as well. So we can close
Well,
that.
Donna is saying, I asked the universe yesterday in exasperation, why aren't we doing better as humans with the exponentially powerful tool of the internet? Then today you got this call. Affirmation, the universe is listening. Thank you, Donna. I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
that's
Can we share this on your Facebook page? Absolutely, Miss Kelly. Absolutely. Thank you. And Doris saying, I would like a place in the mind stream here. A guy named Bill Pfeiffer, website skyotter.org, a book called Wild Earth, Wild Soul, a roadmap to integration and rebuilding community. Oh, the best we can do is invite the gentleman to come speak to us
Yeah.
on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And I'm taking suggestions.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you for that, Dory. Definitely will issue that
Yeah.
request to him.
By the way, the conversation for exploration, like everything, what did Tony's term he said about falling into
Fumbling towards ecstasy.
okay, so it's fumbling towards conversation because we always have just things come our way without it's just not engineered. It happens. Some of it's
We
engineered.
listen. We listen all
Yeah.
the time. We wait for stuff
Yeah.
to fall in our lap, and then we try
Yeah,
to
we had
take action.
a great introduction yesterday to Fazad, and we said you need to come back and be on our
Thank
program.
you so much, Farzad.
Yeah, we'll put you on.
Oh, he's going to talk to us about alchemy at a later date, sometime in the next several months.
Alchemy.
He's agreed.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's been
yeah.
doing quite the study of alchemy. So-
Yeah. And Fazad, when you say alchemy, quick, give us a sentence.
Transformation, that's the, I guess, ancient and present way of transformation. And so it encompasses a lot. It could, a lot of different activities have the process and structure of alchemy, from the chemical stuff and the, you know, the old texts, and also just what's happening around us right now, presently.
And the metaphorical and
I'm looking so forward to this
thank you so much
conversation.
for being part of this community. We're so appreciative of you being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thrilled to be here.
We adopted you immediately. All right.
So last thoughts on this. Has this been a fun exercise?
Well, and I also wanted to say that I did bring up the topic in today's email, talking about global collective consciousness, which ties in exactly with the entire conversation today. And that we have had this ongoing discussions with Brian Tucker. We talked a lot about global consciousness. We're expanding that bandwidth of that as well, because the word global consciousness is not a well looked up term. And then we did some homework with our webmaster to find out that collective, if we put the word collective in there, people get it. They understand what you're talking about. And so there's thousands of people searching for that type of topic, the global, not so much. But our point is that our interpretation of that, meaning that this synthesis of knowledge, of sharing, of experience, to participate on the experiential level on this global stage, to say that everything that's being done, all the organizations on every level, whether it's political or environmental or whatever level, that please don't dismiss the component of direct experience. Direct experience shifts consciousness. It has its means. We know by looking at the ancient ways that, there has to be some sort of ritual and way for humanity to shift, to make that shift. And so we propose that the thing that we represent, the posture work, has its role. It has its drop in the ocean of participation. And we ask that that be included in the conversation.
And we have to ask, why isn't this work better known, for heaven's sakes? So that is our mission, is to just say, hey, if this resonates with you, just know it exists. Give it a try.
Right.
And can we make it more mainstream? Right? Can we make it more palatable to your average person on the street who doesn't think they want to do, quote, shamanism or trance? I think the word trance is so loaded with baggage. The whole thing needs relanguaging, because it's more than, quote, a trance. It's a natural capacity for us to for our minds and hearts and souls to work. It's our natural capacity. But I'm of the age
that I watched the term meditation go from being some far radical idea to becoming mindfulness that everybody in every place is talking about and doing. So these shifts happen. The yoga, back when I was a teenager and I started doing yoga, it was like, three of us in the universe, it seemed like, in terms of the Western culture.
And Todd Van Poel was pointing out to us, hey, there are 288,000 scholarly papers and books on transcendental meditation
alone.
So scholarly, like scientists looking at this. So why not this work? Don't we have something? And that was Brian Tucker's. I want to thank Brian Tucker for bringing this survey to our attention, and also to say, hey guys, here's a survey that is saying, we know intellectually what the problems are. We know where we ought to and what we could be doing. Why aren't we doing it? Could it be that we need to go deeper into our hearts and souls and minds and pull out those very attributes, the vision, the courage, the creativity, the joy, the compassion, the generosity, the skill sets that it's going to take? And how do we get there? We certainly have a tool where this just spontaneously arises. Isn't this an important tool for the world to know about? Isn't it time is now? Is it time now? Yes. And has indeed, as Goodman first put on the map, isn't this one of the many techniques that humanity has used through time to access this state? Is this work not important now? So I guess it really is calling. I mean, we started out with this work. Oh, it was a nice little club. Oh, it's just something beautiful to do. Oh, Goodman herself didn't really care about bringing it out to the world. She tried.
She was not a marketing
presented
person.
At many academic institutions. She wrote to the grassroots. She tried. But it feels like, is it not our job to make this a little better known? Is that not what we're here for?
Well, at least we have, it doesn't matter to me so much as we just
It matters to me because I feel compelled.
Continue to chip away at having a forum for these kinds of discussions and this kind of connectedness and this kind of community. I mean, ultimately, what it's all about, and as we go along, is that we all have to find our own way. We all have to find those connections. We have to find those things that stimulate us. But it is about just the joy, the inner peace, the vitality of life itself that we want to embrace, and we all have to find the tools that support that mission and that journey.
It's too much. It's too beautiful of a secret to keep it just to ourselves.
Right.
That bottom line. I would like to hear from Chris and Todd Van Poel one last word.
Okay.
Because we want to honor you.
Closing
both,
comments.
and Tony for writing the squad chart. We want to honor you both for helping us make more impact into the world of academia, which Goodman was so good at doing, which we don't have the tools alone to do. That we are partnering with you, Chris and Todd, in some very real and practical and impactful ways, because we can handle, grassroots. You're helping us handle the academic, we want to thank you for that.
And I also want to invite the three of them to come back next roundtable as well, because it's a big topic, but I love the fact for what they brought to the table already and how much it's already developing.
Also, I want to acknowledge Kelly, who's saying she has some wonderful ideas and rituals for children. We want to continue that. Kelly, I just want to say, you didn't have time this week, but in yours also, let's get you better, and we can keep on the conversation, our community hosts and elsewhere.
And Kelly,
talk about the role for children and ritual.
And you got to watch the Teodora presentation from last month if you didn't get a chance to see that. So
many of our community members have come forward with wonderful contributions, but I gave it to Chris and Todd to just say, we just want to honor all that you're doing.
Hey, thank you. We're real excited about what's going on. And I was really excited to hear what Prasad was saying. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Yes. But he's the comments he had and the work that, for example, Fred Smith or Prasad, the work of religion scholars is, I think, really interesting in the context and important in the context of the work you all are doing. And I'm excited to see a core group of researchers, as well as the kind of the general public, all the other folks who are here. Everybody is contributing in meaningful ways, and it's really neat to see it developing. I'm excited to see what happens outside of our work. I mean, I think you guys have really interesting things going on. I think that in 5 years, there's going to be a huge fluorescence of really interesting insights that have been generated by everybody here, not just us, but I mean, everybody here.
Oh, beautifully said, Todd. And again, I want to honor you. I know Todd is the department chair, head of his department. And so he takes that time out each week to meet with us for an hour, along with Christine. Christine as well takes out an hour each week to sit down with us and have a weekly discussion and mind map where we're going with this work and help give it substance and credibility and strength and all of that. And revelation. So I
many
appreciate
threads to this story, and thank you each of you who are helping us develop these many threads.
Okay.
And if there's more you want to do, we're so open to suggestions and volunteers and help, and just drop hello@queenmongeinstitute.com. Drop us a line, tell us what your particular and unique skill sets are, what you have in mind, what you want to do. It certainly takes a village, and we are a village.
And with all of these programs that we're talking about, of course, there's an economic component. So, please contact Mary Wolf, because she wants to help head up a fundraising thing to do some more projects as well. It can be earmarked as it goes forward, all of that kind of stuff. But we are a tiny nonprofit, and it's self-sustaining in a way that because no one takes salaries, no one takes income out of it. We want to make sure that it grows and becomes something significant.
We are though hiring Barbie to help with the handbook. We've hiring Russell, our webmaster, to do a lot of fixing and SEO and this, that, and the other. So we do have some considerable expenses now and on the horizon. So all of your donations go to that. And if it's not a monetary donation, because I know that this is a reciprocal relationship we have with one another, and this free flow of energy and joy and resources, that if you don't have funds contribute in some other way, because it is really
Sure.
about community. This would not exist without all of you.
All right.
So thank you for
I think we've
everything
said that. And
here
maybe,
today.
Mary, maybe you want to put your email in the chat room if you'd like. And so, all
Let
right.
Mary say something. Mary, you've got some good ideas.
Oh,
You
yeah.
want to just speak to that
Well,
for just a moment? I know.
Yeah, just very briefly, I actually have some seed money of my own that I'm putting in, and we're still in the process of kind of getting the committee together and talking about ideas. But I was thinking maybe one of the first things would be do matching funds, like take that seed money and maybe try to get new members, and that membership would be matched.
Perfect.
Yeah. Thank you
Those
for
are
that.
great ideas. Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mary. Yeah. All right. We need to end because we've already kept
We're
people
over time.
for over 2 hours.
Yeah.
And
This
but
was so fun today. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for
fabulous.
your
Yeah.
participation.
Get the
Love
links before I close the
roundtables.
chat room. And you
Oh,
can
one last thing.
one second.
Next Sunday, we're doing another roundtable
But
for
different than this.
conversation, for exploration, and it's about the hero
It's
journey.
not just a roundtable, it's a presentation, but a roundtable in addition.
But we're going to talk about the hero journey and really ask you, what is your call to adventure in life?
Your own
Not
journey.
about this work, but your call to adventure in life.
Yeah, we're not giving a
Because-
theoretical presentation on Joseph Campbell. We're talking about applicable aspects.
Real
of
life,
Bill's
you
journey
know, what
reflected in your life and how you can mind map your own journey using the tools.
we're the
hero's journey.
hero, each of us, to our own hero's journey.
Okay.
We've all answered the call of adventure. We're all meeting our threshold guardians, our mentors, our dark nights of the soul, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But what is your call to adventure? I think
Okay.
it's such an interesting question.
All right.
Yeah. We're going to
It?
share ours.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
So I'm going to go ask everybody to unmute, say goodbye to each other, and thank you all for participating today. So
Yes, thank you all. Fabulous.
good. Thank you all
Like-
for hanging in there. Thank you so much. Email
Thank you,
us.
Brian Tucker.
Hello.
Aloha.
Yeah. hello@queermondayinstitute.com. Yeah. Please email us your response to today's conversation that we didn't get a chance to put you on. So
Yeah.
thank you. Nice to talk to all of you and those that participated. Blessings and good health.